January 17th, 1991, Persian Gulf, 0200 hours. The USS Ranger sits in darkness, an 81,000-ton island of steel floating silently in the black water. No lights, no sound, just the low hum of reactors deep in the hull. On deck, nothing moves. The flight deck, 4.5 acres of reinforced steels, empty, quiet, waiting. But below deck, in spaces lit by red combat lighting, 5,000 sailors are preparing for war. In 6 hours, Operation Desert Storm will begin. The largest air campaign since Vietnam, and the USS Ranger will launch the first wave. At 0755 hours, the ship's loudspeaker crackles. Flight quarters, flight quarters. All hands man your flight quarters stations. Set condition zebra throughout the ship. This is not a drill. And then, the carrier awakens. Elevators rise from the hangar bay, carrying fully armed FA-18 Hornets. Jet engines scream to life. Catapult crews sprint to their stations. The deck transforms from a silent parking lot into a choreographed machine of war. This is the story of what happens when an aircraft carrier shifts from peace to war. The 20-minute transformation that delivers overwhelming violence, and why the sight of a carrier going to full combat operations is one of the most terrifying things an adversary can witness. An aircraft carrier is not just a ship. It's a mobile military base, a floating city, and when needed, a weapon of unparalleled lethality. A Nimitz-class carrier is 1,092 feet long, longer than the Eiffel Tower is tall. It displaces 100,000 tons. It carries 60-90 aircraft, depending on the mission. And it's powered by 2 nuclear reactors that give it virtually unlimited range and endurance. But what makes a carrier truly powerful isn't its size. It's what it can do. A fully operational carrier can launch 120 to 150 sorties individual aircraft missions per day. During surge operations, that number can exceed 200. Each aircraft can carry thousands of pounds of ordnance, precision-guided bombs, cruise missiles, air-to-air missiles. In a single day, a carrier can deliver more firepower than some entire national air forces possess. But the carrier's greatest weapon isn't the jets, it's the crew. 5,000 personnel live and work aboard a carrier. Pilots, mechanics, ordnance, handlers, catapult operators, air traffic controllers, cooks, doctors, engineers. Every single one has a role. And during combat operations, every role is critical. The flight deck, the roof, is the most dangerous workplace on Earth. Aircraft, weighing 50,000 pounds, launch at 165 miles per hour. Jet engines generate exhaust temperatures of 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. One mistake, one person in the wrong place at the wrong time, and people die. Yet during combat operations, this organized chaos happens every 45 seconds. Aircraft launch, land, refuel, rearm, launch again. It's a ballet of violence, a symphony of destruction, and it begins with silence. Because before a carrier strikes, it goes dark. No radio chatter, no external lights, no visible activity. To an observer, whether it's a satellite, a reconnaissance aircraft, or a sailor on a distant ship, the carrier looks dormant, inactive, almost peaceful. But that silence is deceptive. It's the silence before the storm, the moment of tension before the explosion. And when the carrier awakens, the entire world knows it. Let's walk through what happens in the hours before a carrier launches combat operations. A U.S. carrier strike group is operating in the eastern Mediterranean. Intelligence has identified a high-value targeter terrorist training camp, a chemical weapons facility, or hostile military installation, the President authorizes a strike. The order is transmitted through the chain of command. Secretary of Defense gives Central Command, gives Carrier Strike Group Commander, gives Carrier Air Wing Commander, gives Squadron, COS. At 1800 hours, 6 hours before the planned strike, the carrier shifts to combat posture. First, the ship enters IMCON emissions control. All non-essential electronic emissions are shut down. Radar is minimized. Radio silence is enforced. The goal is to reduce the carrier's electronic signature, making it harder to detect or track. To an outside observer, the carrier essentially disappears. Second, below deck, ordnance handlers begin arming the aircraft. This is meticulous, dangerous work. Missiles, bombs, and ammunition are moved from the ship's magazine storage areas deep in the hull to the hangar bay. Each weapon is inspected, fuses are checked, guidance systems tested. Then, the ordnance is mounted onto the aircraft's hardpoints, the attachment points under the wings and fuselage. A fully loaded FA-18 Super Hornet can carry to AIM-9 Sidewinder air-to-air missiles, to AIM-1 to AMRAAM air-to-air missiles, for 2,000-pound JDAM precision-guided bombs, one targeting pod for laser guidance, external fuel tanks for extended range, total weight over 15,000 pounds of ordnance. Loading a single aircraft takes 30 to 45 minutes. For a full strike package, 20 to 30 aircraft takes hours. Third, pilots attend mission briefings. In a secured briefing room, they review target details and coordinates, flight routes and refueling points, rules of engagement, enemy air defenses and threats, search and rescue SAR procedures if an aircraft goes down. Every detail is rehearsed, every contingency planned, because once they launch, there's no room for error. Fourth, the flight deck is prepared. Aircraft that have been stored in the hangar bay are brought up via massive elevators. Deck crews wearing color-coded jerseys that indicate their role position the aircraft for launch. Yellow jerseys, aircraft directors, purple jerseys, aviation fuel handlers, red jerseys, ordnance handlers, green jerseys, catapult and arresting gear crews, blue jerseys, aircraft handlers and elevator operators, white jerseys, safety officers and quality control, brown jerseys, plane captains. Each crew member knows their job. They've drilled for this moment hundreds of times, but this time it's real. And at 2,330 hours, 30 minutes before launch, the carrier goes silent. All external activity stops. The deck is still. The aircraft sit ready, loaded with weapons, fueled, engines cold. To anyone watching from shore or satellite, the carrier looks inactive, dormant. They have no idea what's about to happen. Midnight, the ship's loudspeaker crackles to life. Flight quarters, flight quarters. All hands man your flight quarters stations. Launch the alert birds. I say again, launch the alert birds. And in an instant, the carrier transforms. Deck lights blaze to life red lights that preserve night vision but provide enough illumination for deck crews to work. Hundreds of sailors pour onto the flight deck, moving with practiced precision. The first aircraft to launch are the Alert Birds fighter jets, kept on standby for immediate launch. 2 FA-18 Super Hornets are positioned on catapults 1 and 2. The pilots climb into their cockpits. Canopies close. Engines spool up. The sound is overwhelming. 2 F-414 turbofan engines per aircraft, each producing 22,000 pounds of thrust. The roar is deafening, even with ear protection. On the deck, the shooter the catapult officer signals the pilots. A series of hand gestures. Check controls. Throttle up. Salute. The pilot salutes back. This is the final confirmation. I'm ready. Launch me. The shooter touches the deck and points forward. The catapult fires. Boom. The catapult, a massive steam-powered piston, accelerates the 50,000-pound aircraft from 0 to 165 miles per hour in 2 seconds. The jet screams down the deck and launches into the night sky. 3 seconds later, the second catapult fires. Another jet, another streak of fire into the darkness. The alert birds are airborne. Their job: establish a combat air patrol cap overhead, protecting the carrier from enemy aircraft while the strike package launches. Now, the real operation begins. Below deck, elevators rise, carrying more aircraft from the hangar bay. FA-18E, F, Super Hornets, EA-18G, Growlers, electronic warfare aircraft designed to jam enemy radar. E-2C, warning aircraft that will coordinate the strike. Each aircraft is positioned on one of 4 catapults. The choreography is precise. While one aircraft launches, the next is already being hooked to the catapult shuttle. Launch cycle: 45 seconds per aircraft. At 0005 hours, the third jet launches. Boom. 6 hours. Fourth jet. Boom. 7 hours. Fifth jet. Boom. Every 45 seconds, another aircraft screams into the night. The deck shudders with each launch. The smell of jet fuel and hot metal fills the air. It's orchestrated chaos. Deck crews sprint between aircraft, disconnecting fuel lines, removing safety pins from weapons, guiding jets into launch position. One misstep, one person too close to a jet intake or exhaust stand, they're gone. But there are no mistakes. These crews have trained for years. This is what they do. By 0020 hours 20 minutes after the first launch, 30 aircraft are airborne. They form up into strike packages. 16 FA-18 Super Hornets carrying JDAMs and laser-guided bombs. 4 EA-18G Growlers for electronic warfare. 2 E-2 Hawkeyes for command and control. For FA-18s in fighter escort role. For tankers for aerial refueling. The formation turns east, toward the target 300 miles away, and on the carrier deck, the second wave is already being prepared. The EA-18G Growlers have been jamming enemy radar for the past 30 minutes. To the adversary's air defense systems, the sky appears empty. Their radar screens show nothing but static. But the strike aircraft are there, flying in tight formation at 25,000 feet. The lead pilot checks his targeting pod. The infrared camera locks onto the targeter building complex, identified by intelligence as a command center. Viper 1, target acquired. Request weapons, release authority. From the E to Hawkeye overhead, the mission commander responds. Viper 1, you are cleared hot. All aircraft, you are cleared hot. Execute, execute, execute. The FA-18s roll into attack dives. One by one, they pickled their weapons, releasing 2,000-pound JDAM bombs. The bombs fall silently. Their GPS guidance systems steer them toward the coordinates programmed before launch. There's no sound, no warning. Just the sudden, catastrophic impact. Boom, boom, boom. 16 direct hits in under 90 seconds. The target complex is obliterated. Secondary explosions ripple across the facility as ammunition stores and fuel depots ignite. Smoke and fire billow into the night sky, visible from 50 miles away. The strike aircraft don't linger. They turn and head back toward the carrier, refueling from tanker's en route. By 0230 hours, they're in the carrier's landing pattern. Now comes the hardest part: recovery. Landing on an aircraft carrier at night is the most dangerous thing a pilot will ever do. The carrier is moving at 25 knots, about 29 miles per hour. It's pitching and rolling in the ocean swells. And the landing area, the section of deck designated for recovery, is only 800 feet long. At night, visibility is near zero. The pilot can't see the horizon, can't see the deck until the last second. They're flying entirely on instruments and the guidance of the landing signal officers, SOS, who stand on the deck and provide real-time instructions. The approach speed is 145 knots, about 167 miles per hour. At that speed, the pilot has exactly 3 seconds from the time they cross the carrier's stern to the moment they touch down. If they're too high, they'll miss the arresting wires, the cables stretched across the deck, designed to catch the aircraft's tailhook and stop it. That's called a bolter. The pilot has to immediately go to full throttle and take off again, circling for another attempt. If they're too low, they'll hit the stern of the ship, the ramp. That's usually fatal. If they're too fast or too slow, the landing is unstable. The aircraft could skid, crash, or roll off the deck into the ocean. Every landing is a controlled crash. 232 hours. The first aircraft enters the landing pattern. Viper 1, paddles contact. You're on glide slope. Call the ball. The ball, officially the Fresnel lens optical landing systems, a series of lights on the side of the deck that provides visual guidance. If the pilot sees the ball centered, they're on the correct approach. Viper 1, Hornet ball. 5.2, meaning 5,200 pounds of fuel remaining. The LSO monitors the approach. If something's wrong, they'll call it. Power, increase throttle. Right for lineup, drift right, easy with it. Small correction, or, in an emergency, wave off. Wave off. The pilot must immediately abort and go around. But this approach is good. The FA-18 crosses the stern, tailhook down. Main gear touches the deck. The tailhook catches the number 3 wire, the target wire. The arresting cable stretches, decelerating the 50,000-pound aircraft from 145 knots to 0 in 2 seconds. The pilot is slammed forward against the harness. G-forces crush their chest. And then, stillness. The aircraft is down, safe. Deck crews sprint toward the jet. They disconnect the arresting wire, fold the wings, and taxi the aircraft to a parking spot. The entire process takes 90 seconds, because 45 seconds later, the next aircraft is landing. By 0330 hours, all 30 aircraft have recovered. No losses, no mishaps, a perfect mission. But there's no celebration, just exhaustion. The pilots climb out of their cockpits, legs shaking from adrenaline. They're debriefed immediately. What worked, what didn't, what needs to change for the next mission. Because, in 6 hours, they'll launch again. The carrier doesn't rest. It doesn't stop. As long as there's a mission, the machine keeps running. Let's talk about what this looks like from the other side. Imagine you're an adversary military commander in a hostile nation. Your intelligence services have been tracking a US carrier strike group operating near your coast. For days, the carrier has been stationary. Routine flight operations, training exercises, nothing threatening. But then, at midnight, something changes. Your radar operators report a sudden increase in electronic activity. The carrier, which had been electronically quiet, lights up. Multiple radar emissions, radio traffic spikes. Then, your air defense systems start detecting aircraft. 1, contact. 2, 5, 10, 20, 30. Within 20 minutes, an entire air wing is airborne, and they're heading in your direction. You try to track them, but your radar screens are flooded with interference. The EA-18G Growlers are jamming everything. Your surface-to-air missile systems can't lock on. Your interceptor aircraft can't get targeting data. You're blind, and then your command centers start exploding. This is the psychological impact of a carrier strike. It's not just the destruction, it's the helplessness. One moment, you're monitoring a dormant ship. The next, you're under attack by dozens of aircraft you never saw coming, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. This is why adversaries fear aircraft carriers, not because they're big, not because they're expensive, but because they can appear peaceful one moment and deliver overwhelming violence the next. It's the ultimate show of force, and it works. There's a phrase in the Navy, steel on target. It means putting the right weapon on the right target at the right time. It's the mission, the goal, the reason aircraft carriers exist. But achieving steel on target requires thousands of people working in perfect synchronization. Pilots, deck, crews, engineers, cooks. Every single person aboard contributes. And when the carrier goes from silence to full combat operations, all of that training, all of that preparation, comes together in a 20-minute transformation that's unlike anything else in modern warfare. The deck opens, the jets launch, the weapons fly, and thousands of miles away, targets are destroyed. It's precise, it's overwhelming, and it sends a message that resonates far beyond the physical damage. The message is simple. American military power can reach you anywhere, at any time, and you won't see it coming until it's too late. This is the carrier as weapon, not just the jets, not just the missiles, but the entire system, the ship, the crew, the doctrine working as one machine of war. And when that machine awakens, when the silent deck transforms into controlled chaos, when dozens of aircraft rise into the night sky and disappear toward their targets, the world watches. Because the carrier wasn't just floating there. It was waiting, preparing, calculating. And when the moment came, it opened like a machine of war. This is American power projection at its most visceral. And it's why, 80 years after the first carriers changed naval warfare forever, they remain the most powerful weapons on Earth.